In Acuña's book, you can't describe philosophy with one single word. And in Module 2, it focuses on rationalism and empiricism. So, let's narrow down from that.
Epistemology is a term derived from the Greek word episteme, meaning knowledge, and logos, meaning reason. For many, it is known as the theory of knowledge. It refers to the philosophical study of nature, origin, and limits of human knowledge. This discipline arises from a fundamental human desire to comprehend the world and construct theories to make sense of it. Epistemologists, unlike most people, push inquiries further, often beginning their speculation with the assumption that they have a great ideal of knowledge. However, as they reflect, they discover that their beliefs are much less secure than they realize, leading to doubts that stem from anomalies in people's experience of the world. A classic example that illustrates this is the problem of knowledge of the external world. The problem is often highlighted by scientific discoveries and how they can challenge our everyday perceptions. And before we continue, I have something for you to ponder about. For instance, consider the statement, "Gravity causes objects to fall." This is an epistemological statement because it forces us to examine the justification behind our beliefs about the world. Does gravity really cause objects to fall? Is the Earth flat? Where or what is the Big Bang Theory? Because the widely accepted definition of knowledge was justified true belief, that the something that you know must actually be true, and if a fact turns out to be false, you might not have believed it, but if you didn't truly know it, this means that for a person to truly know something, three conditions must be met. First, they must believe it. Belief. We believe that gravity causes objects to fall down because of the constant and everyday experience of objects falling. Number 2, the belief must be true. The belief is considered true because it accurately describes a consistent phenomenon in the world, validated by extensive scientific observation and experimentation. Number 3, they must have a good reason or justification for holding that belief true. This is supported by Newton's laws of motion and other scientific findings that support this notion. But this can be argued that we perceive is not actually factual. It is only justified true belief, such as the space-time expansion theory, which states that gravity is a push and not a pull concept. In simple terms, epistemology studies how knowledge is acquired, relying on its limits and validity. That if you add up belief and truth, you'll end up with knowledge. And knowledge can be defined as facts, information, and skills acquired by a person, theoretical or practical understanding of an object. While for philosophers, this is what they have sought to define, categorize to make sense of history. And under epistemology falls under different categories of truths and traditions of knowledge. Some example of this is the theories of truth, or what we know as the correspondence theory of truth and coherence theory of truth. Starting off with the correspondence truth of theory. It dates back to Aristotle's definition of metaphysics, saying that truth is in relation to reality. A statement is true if it corresponds to reality, an actual state of affairs in the world, saying that this is the most intuitive or common sense view of the truth, and it's most useful in science, observation, fact-checking, journalism, and etc. While coherence theory of truth is associated with idealism, realism, and relativism, saying that truth is in relation to propositions, or what we know as beliefs and ideas, because truth isn't always as obvious as it seems, and in many cases, especially involving abstract reasoning, conflicting accounts, unobservable past events, and systems of belief or ideology. So let me give you an example before we continue. Have you ever been or have you ever walked past the canteen in UPDEPP? Well, I'm sure you've already smelt or you've already heard of the delicious turon that they serve. Well, according to the correspondence theory, if you see a person or a group of people eating turon or even the smell of the ingredients of turon, then, therefore, there is turon being served. While the coherence theory, it states that if you are aware that every morning at 10:30 a.m. turon is made available, then, therefore, it is true that turon is being served. At first, these two concepts are very difficult to understand, but in due time, we realize that these theories are what we use in order to evaluate the truths that we encounter in our day-to-day lives. But wait, there's more. I have another concept for you to debate on. Which primary source of knowledge should be given more attention to? Well, according to Descartes, there are two responses to skepticism which will expound later on, featuring David Hume. So it says here that there are two types of knowledge, or two types of sources of knowledge. The first one is rationalism. It basically states that the belief or that the reason is a more reliable source of knowledge, while empiricism focuses on the belief that the sense of experience is more reliable as a source of knowledge. And the thing is, this is a common debate among the philosophers, especially the rationalists, such as René Descartes, Baruch Spinoza, and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. And among the empiricists are John Locke, George Berkeley, and David Hume. And I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of their names because some websites are saying that it's the other, while the other is saying otherwise. Going back to what the rationalists believe, they said that the five senses are not genuine sources of knowledge. And obviously, the empiricist philosophers beg to differ, saying that regardless of these faults, these are the only faculty that comes in contact with the physical world. So, obviously, there's this whole debate on what is the nature of knowledge or where or what is the primary source of true knowledge. But it doesn't end there. In the perception of Hume's, he states that all perceptions of human mind resolve themselves into two kinds. First, impressions, and second are ideas. Impressions are based on all our senses, basically the first thing that comes to our mind. And if we may quote Hume's, he said that impressions are aggressive ideas that push their way into our consciousness, similar to the moment we identify an object or a person. So, you wouldn't question if you saw a cushion and say that, oh, is that soft? Is that rough? Or is it hard? And also, the scent you smell at a cafe. Is that coffee? Is that juice? Is that milk tea? Or the candy flavor that you're tasting? Or even the moving object that you see in the road. You wouldn't second guess that, oh, is that a car? Is that a truck? Is that a scooter? And many more. It's because you are familiar with these impressions and can comprehend feelings, passions, and emotions. On the other hand, ideas are faint images of impressions that turn thinking into reasoning. So let's say, for example, you are walking in the park and you see this vehicle going towards you, and you realize, or your impression of this object is, oh, the object that is going towards me is a car. So that is an impression. And an idea is basically what you are going to do when the car goes towards you. So are you going to move out of the way or go towards the car as well? Or how about when you wake up first thing in the morning, your impression is that you realize that, oh, I'm still in bed, I'm still in comfort, and you are aware because you are sensing of your sensing your environment. But you see, Acuna criticized Hume's thought, saying that passions and emotions fall under the same concept of ideas and not impressions.
Knowledge claim is a term that we have long familiarized ourselves with. It is basically a statement that provides the truth and knowledge. In addition, these are the statements that are believed to be true by knowers and are still up for a debate and thorough discussion. According to Acuna, it shouldn't just be an opinion as it must have a justification Our justifications are influenced by the culture, tradition, and community that we belong to. Kaya at some point, masasabi natin na, oh naman, social construct lang ang knowledge claim. Ikaw ba? Naniniwala ka ba doon? Kasi kung ako ang tatanungin mo, oo, naniniwala ako. Kasi ang mga paniniwala natin, ang values natin as a person or moralidad ay nanggaling or na-influensyahan ng mga tao na kinabibilangan natin. At yun ay pinipili na lang natin kung tatanggapin ba natin or e-embrace ba natin yung paniniwalang yun. In the common framework, there are three types of knowledge claim. First is the claim of truth. A claim of truth refers to a statement that we can check or verify if it is true or false. For example, the Earth is a planet and the triangle has three sides. And the second type of knowledge claim is the claim of value. Claim of value is basically just our personal judgment or values as a person. An example of this is the famous quotation, honesty is the best policy. Third on the list is the claim of policy. Claim of policy suggests what we can do to solve a problem. For example, the government should focus on flood control projects to avoid floods. But according to Aquinas' philosophical analysis founding his dogma, mas nagbigay diin pa siya sa mga definition or uri ng knowledge claim. Ano kaya ang mga iyon and how does it differ from the usual knowledge claim that we are familiar with?
First, let's define dogma. It came from the Greek word dokein, which means to seem and to think. In common use, it refers to a belief or principle that is fixed or cannot be changed. It is already considered correct, usually without questions. An example of this are religion doctrines and political ideologies. For Acuna, there are only two knowledge claims, the claim of fact and value. There's no claim of policy because he believes that the claim of policy should not be separated and be included on the claim of value because every policy claim is built on a value claim. However, during the 20th century, logical positivists perpetuated that there are only two knowledge claims. This distinction became controversial, though it remains helpful, especially in the classification of sciences. It was said that the two types of knowledge claims are truth of reason and facts. Truth of reason are knowledge based on logic, analysis, and pure thought. These are statements that cannot be denied without contradiction. The perfect example of this are the rationalists as they rely on logic and not on sensory experience. Truth of facts, on the other hand, are based on our observation of the real world. Although empiricists believes or value both truth of reason and facts, they emphasize that the facts can be confirmed once you experience it yourself. We shouldn't believe nor accept knowledge claims in an instant as it must always be evaluated first. There are four steps in evaluating knowledge claims, and the first is to clarify the claim. Identify whether it is claim of facts, values, or policy. It is important to clarify which claim it is for the reason that not all claims are the same. By identifying the right type of claim, it will be easier to evaluate it, whether we should look for evidence, analyze values, or assess possible actions. Next is to verify its justification. All claims are meaningless without supporting evidence. Evidence and reasoning show whether a claim is strong or weak. In addition, it helps us check whether or not the claim is factually correct, true, or just a mere opinion. Following, consider the context. As mentioned earlier, knowledge claims are socially constructed. Knowing the context helps us understand the motives and influences behind it. And lastly, check the coherence. Make sure to check if the claim is consistent with established knowledge and not in conflict with proven truths. By doing all of this, we avoid blindly accepting statements and become more critically and reflective thinkers.
These understandings are what we call epistemic obligations, the duty to perform actions and responsibilities according to one's beliefs that are supported by evidence. But before we end this video, I have a question for you. Which do you think is the primary source of knowledge? Is it reason or experience? Is one more valuable than the other? Is experience enough to establish validity? Or what about the given scientific theories that are constantly being updated and debunked? Are science and reason truly reliable?